What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another review. Today we're going to talk about Mirka Andolfo's Unnatural. Now, when I first picked up this book, it was kind of like out of a whim. Like, I just kind of saw it, and I was like, I'll pick it up, see what it's about. And at first, it was a little bit weird because I couldn't get used to the characters in it because they're not just like regular people, right? So, the book, like I said, is Unnatural. And as you can see, there's female right here. There's a female right here. But it's just not, she's not just some ordinary female. She's like a pig female. And then she has her friend Derek. It's like kind of like a deer-looking human breed. And then you got her friend Trish right here, which is like a mouse human breed. Now, it's kind of weird because at first I kind of looked at it and I was like, what? This is a little bit weird. And then when I started reading it, it kind of got me too. Because there's actually violence in here. And not a lot, but there's nudity and sexual acts in here as well. But when you kind of think of it, you're kind of like, animal form like this? And so the way I kind of really looked at it, because the story of it is kind of interesting in a sense that if you take out the animal aspect and treat them more like races instead of animals, it makes so much more sense. And it drove me in a lot. And I'm not gonna lie, I really like this story. I really like this book, actually. And I'm actually going to keep this book, and I'll let you know my rating here in a little bit. But aside from that, yeah, like I said, it was a great book. Aside from the characters being animals, like a Zootopia kind of thing, they're like animal hybrids, if that makes sense. Because they're human animal hybrids, because they still have the reproduction system and body of a human, but they're like animal formed, if that makes sense. But anyway, speaking of natural or unnatural, like I said, it's by Mirka Andolfo. Give me 1 second. So the writer, artist, and colorist is all done by Mirka Andolfo. Color assistant is by Gianluca Papi. Lettering and production is Fabio Amelia. Translation from Latin, because I believe Mirka Andolfo is actually a Latin creator and writer. So everything that she does is in Latin, and then there has to be people that kind of translate it to English for us to read over here, right? And I think there's like a French edition and things like that as well. And that was by Arnesia Studio. Okay. Cover artist, the cover of this is by Mirka Andolfo, and editor is Diego Malara, Marco Recompensa, and the design is by Alessandro Giacchiardo and Fabio Amelia. So it looks like a lot of the same people did the same thing. Also, before I forget, it is by Image Comics, and this is called the Unnatural Omnibus. There's a few paperbacks of it, I believe, but this completes the whole story of it. And there's also, like, after they finished, it wrapped up nicely, but they started a new series, and I started reading. I think I read the first 5 issues of it. It's completely different than this. Like, I mean, it's still the same characters, but it looks so different, and it just didn't draw me in. For me personally, Unnatural stopped right here. It was a 12-shot issue comic, and it stopped. I believe it's 12. Let me be 100% sure. No, it's 12. It is 12. Okay. So we're going to dive into this book. I'm going to try to flip through the pages and tell you about the story as much as I can without giving away too much spoilers, and also not to show the nudity, because for some reason YouTube is weird. They like showing the violence and stuff they're okay with, but you show a nipple and it's like, nope, this video is completely banned. It makes no sense. Anyway, let's dive into the book. All right, everybody, let's get started with this. Like I said, it is a hardcover, which is very nice. I'm going to try to kind of flip through and tell you about the story without giving, without you guys seeing the nudity. Here, I guess we can start right here. So, in a nutshell, like I said, the story takes place in like this weird future-ish kind of place where this big, humongous company controls these kind of animal-looking humans. We'll just call them humans, right? And at the age of 25, if they haven't found a partner to reproduce with, that company will find one for you. But as you can see in this page, they don't want you cross, being with like an animal being with like a crocodile, or a pig being with the crocodile, a pig being with the deer. They want that pig being with the pig. They want foxes to be with foxes and things like that to reproduce, right? So when you turn 25 and you haven't found one to keep reproducing, that place will find one for you and go from there, so you can continue reproducing. There is kind of like this thing where there's, I guess you can say, a place far away from this city is called Tiju, and that place was okay with, different cross species, reproducing, things like that. It was like the land of the free. And so when I first started reading this, it was a little bit weird, but then it got me thinking, what if these were, just regular humans, and she was like a white person, and black person, Asian person, and things like that, and like the company, the huge conglomerate company, didn't want you reproducing with the different, ethnicity. They just want you reproducing with the same one. And so even though the story is kind of like that, at the end, there's a little bit of like supernatural thing going on with like, her, Leslie's blood. And I guess she's having dreams of this guy named the Albino, which used to be like this big old god that people worshipped. But he was a monster god. And so it has a lot to do with, that trying to stop that whole conglomerate thing. There's actually a lot to this story, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. What sucks is you get introduced to a lot of characters, but a lot of them kind of don't matter in the end. I don't want to say that to give too many spoilers, but there's a reason for it. So by the time Leslie turns 25, she needs to go on this dating app. Like they email her right away, and she needs to be set up with some guy to go on a date with, right? And so she's scared of this. She's really scared of going on this date with whoever this next person is, or whoever this person is, because she doesn't know who he is. Come to find out, his name is Jones, and he's actually not a bad-looking guy. Let me see if I can find a picture of him. There he is, right here. But he turns out to be he's not a bad-looking guy, but he turns out to be a bad guy. And what I mean by that is he's working with the main villain of the story, which is this right here, and they call it the Glance. Now you see two wolves right here. So Leslie doesn't actually want to be with a breed of her own kind. She wants to be with the wolf at first, but then she finds out that this wolf, the albino, is not the person he says he is. He's like this old ancient monster god that killed people, and that tribe in Tiju made a deal with him that they would kind of give him females so he can stop like the killing, and he was okay with that. But it was at one time that a pig female with blue hair sacrificed herself, but before he can sacrifice her, and that's where kind of like the story takes place, because I guess supposedly that chick, her name was Bess, is reincarnated through Leslie. And so the story is that she's really trying to stop the Glance, because what the Glance is, what the Glance is actually trying to do is take over the reproduction program. Anybody that's, mixing breeds, anybody that's considered weak, they were going to destroy them. Almost think of it as a neo-Nazi type of thing, where the Nazis were trying to take over the world and, be claimed the top ethnicity, right? That's exactly what this kind of reminded me of. Excuse me. And that's why I liked it so much, because you got that happening with somebody trying to stop that. And it's weird that I like saying that, but it's what I mean by it is they do stop that from happening. I know I wasn't going to take over, and I was like, oh yeah, I was rooting for that. No, I knew they were going to stop it. So they do eventually, there's a climatic event where she meets, what's her name? Leslie meets Cal, which is a descendant of the albino, and she meets a few other people like Carol, and I think her name is Saya, and they go and stop the Glance. And at the end, a whole bunch of things happen as to how it stopped, why the person was doing it, how Carol was involved in the start of it as well. And like I said, it's a very, very interesting story. and the art in it is so amazing. I think the only thing that I had kind of an issue with is that they were trying to do like this totalitarian, takeover of the human race is type of thing, with like a mixture of like sacrificial, ancient blood type of thing. So I think if they would have stuck with one or the other, I think it would have made a little more sense. I mean, don't get me wrong, the read itself, it makes a lot of sense. But I just kind of think there was two different things happening, whereas it could have just been one, right? And I think it would have been so much better that way. But overall, the story was fantastic. Like, I didn't want to let it down after I read the first 5 issues, kind of set it down. And then the next day I picked it up, read another few issues. And then after that, I just kind of blew through the rest of it and read through it. And it was an amazing story, I like how it ended. I like what happened. I like the climax of it and why people did what they did. But like I said, the only thing that kind of got to me was that whole ancient blood lineage, sacrificial kind of thing, and the dreams that she was having. That's kind of what got me a little bit. But overall, this was an amazing story. As you can see, this one's kind of funny. This picture right here, because it kind of reminds me of the Uncharted picture. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird because she's almost dressed like Nathan Drake too. But yeah, like it was such a great story. And at the end of it, I'm gonna see if I can show some. Nope. Oh, there we go. Yeah, at the end of it, you got cover variants. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of characters in this that get introduced, but like, you don't really want to pay attention. Like, when you start a book, you're like, who should I pay attention to? Who's gonna make it? Who's not? Things like that. You definitely need to pay attention to Leslie because this is her story. You need to pay attention to Cal, the Glance for sure. She has a backstory. Albino. You need to pay attention to Carol. This is Saya. These two, I don't want to give that spoiler, but like, they're introduced there, but like for no reason. Like, if they didn't introduce these two, it wouldn't make a difference. But I understand why they did it, right? So I guess for the book to make like, to be like, okay, it's something that we can kind of relate to, it makes sense. I give it that. So yeah, it's a great story, a good story. I cannot recommend it enough, by Mirka Andolfo. I heard some of her books are hit and miss, so this one's definitely a hit for me, and I'm gonna definitely keep this book. I cannot recommend it enough. If you guys can get past the fact that the humans are actually like human hybrids of animals, get past that and think about them just being different ethnicities, I guess you can say, you'll love this story. You will definitely love this story. All right, everybody. So that's a wrap up on the review of it. I hope I didn't give too many spoilers away. There's a lot of twists and turns at the end, so that's the spoilers I didn't want to give away. There's other characters that are involved in here, like Napoleon, Jones. Just they're not really side characters, but they're characters that are do something in the story, but they're kind of like, why? I mean, they're there for a reason, but it just I didn't want to give you guys too many characters to be paying attention to. So anyway, so as far as me giving this a rating, I'm definitely keeping this book, definitely. So I'm gonna give this a 9 as story wise, the art wise. It's not a 10 because, like I said, that whole sacrificial blood lineage thing, kind of got to me a little bit. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. If they would have stuck with that and not the whole totalitarian reproduction program thing, it would have been a 10 for me. But because they were trying to do the two at the same time, that's kind of where I drew the line. I was like, it's still a great story, but okay, I'll give it a 9 for sure. I'm definitely keeping it. Like I said, Unnatural by Mirka Andolfo, Image Comics. It's called the Omnibus hardcover. Like I said, there is a few trade paperbacks of it. So I got a few other Mirka Andolfo books that I'm going to read, check out. I'll let you know once I finish reading them if I like them or not. But this one's definitely a go for me. I cannot recommend this enough to people to read, to have in their collection. If you guys collect, graphic novels, I hope you guys been liking the way I've been doing this, with, flipping through the pages, with me talking, giving it a rating, and things like that. And like I said, there's a lot more graphic novels I'm going to go through. I've been buying a whole bunch. Like I said, I got into it not too long ago, so I'm kind of ripping through some of them. And I think I should take my time a little bit more with them to kind of just enjoy the story. Like, I enjoy the art, but sometimes I read through the story a little bit too fast where I don't enjoy it as much as I should. So I'm definitely going to start doing that. Maybe take it, one issue at a time, or maybe a few at a time, and not just blow through the whole thing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you guys read this story, what you guys thought about it, if you guys want to pick it up. I hope this review gives you the no or the go or no go on if you guys want to pick it up or not. Leave a like, please. It helps my channel grow. Like I said, it's not really for you guys, but I appreciate if you guys are watching to leave a like, so I know some people are watching it and, appreciate the review. Leave a comment as well. It helps, let me know what I can do to improve these videos. What other ones you guys recommend I read. Like I said before, I'm not the biggest fan of, like, superhero comics, but I like these kind of like indie ones, if that makes sense. I know this one's a little bit weird, but I like the indie ones where it's like crime noir, maybe some, I don't know, I got Something's Killing the Children, the lake, the Nice House on the Lake, Reckless. I read Criminal. I like stories like that. So if you guys have other recommendations, let me know. I'll definitely check them out for sure. And if you guys haven't done so already, I'd really appreciate if you guys can, give me a follow on my YouTube page. It'll help me grow, get it out there. Other people can see my reviews and help, give them an opinion on if they want to pick it up or not. That being said, we'll see you on the next one.